So let's have a look at some of the more advanced roading features inside SiteMaster software. Before we open the software, I want to cover a basic workflow. So the first thing that we need to do is import some points and create a DTM. Once we have the DTM, we're going to import a horizontal alignment from an XML file. We're then going to take that alignment and we're going to extract cross sections through it through the DTM. Having done that, we'll then open that data into the roads module. From within the roads module, we'll design the profile. We'll look at editing and adding IPs on the profile. We'll then edit and assign cross-section templates. Once we've done that, we're going to use some super elevations and transitions as the road goes round a corner or a bend. We'll then add in some tie slopes, and we'll add some subgrades or surfaces. We'll compute the design, and then we'll export out to the survey module. From within the survey module, we need to determine the data that we would want to upload. Are we uploading a road or are we uploading a DTM? Sync that data with TopServe, set up our total station or GPS, define string sets if we want to, so we can create slopes from existing strings, and then stake the road, the horizontal alignment or the horizontal and vertical alignment, and then we can use some of the more advanced features, for example staking the center line, the intersection, segment or the surface. So let's now go into SiteMaster. So with a new project, the first thing we're going to do is import an ASCII file just for the model. So on my desktop, I'm just going to change the file format to ASCII. And then there should be a file called GeoExperience Road Model. We're just going to open that. And we're not here to do a SiteMaster tutorial, it's merely road, so we're just going to go through all the settings and just merely say OK. So we've got some points on the screen, so if I just use the wheel of the mouse and zoom in and out, I'm just going to say Control and A and select everything. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose the option for surface, and I want to create a DTM. I'm just going to accept the defaults and I'm going to change the name to Road OGL. Road Original Ground Level. I'm just going to click on the contours and I'm going to turn those off and I'm going to say OK. So I now have my model, but you notice I've got some triangles that are far too long, so I'm going to clean those out. So I'm just going to say Surface, DTM Tools, Delete Triangles, and I'm going to use the method Triangle by Line. So I'm just going to draw a line through, making sure I cover all the triangles, press the Escape key and accept yes, and then I'm just going to do the same through here, Escape key and yes. So I've now got a tidy road model. Next thing I want to do is just check that, so I'm just going to say Control A again, press the Escape key to kill the current command, right click, 3D, highlight, Road OGL, and just check there's no spikes inside the data just by moving your left mouse and twirling round. Okay, so now let's import the XML file. So I'm going to say File, Import, Desktop again, and there should be a file there called Land XML GeoExperience Manual HAL Final. So we're going to say Open, and lo and behold, there's our horizontal alignment nicely through our existing DTM. So let's go ahead and create some cross sections. So design, cross sections from DTM. It's automatically found the alignment from the XML, so we can just say OK. And now we need to change some settings here. So we're going to say 10 meter left and right offset. And we're going to do some spacing here on the road. So we're going to say 5 meters on the straights and 2.5 meters on the curves. And then we're just going to say OK. And OK once more, and we have some cross sections. Next thing to do is to open the roads module, which is this diamond, yellow diamond with an arrow through it. And click on that, highlight alignment, and say Open. Okay, so we're now in the roads module. You can see there's 3 panes by default: the horizontal pane, the vertical pane, and the cross-section pane. And as I move through each one, you'll see the display changing at the bottom. So I've got, for example, easting and northing in the horizontal screen. In the profile screen, I've got the chainage and the level. And in the cross-section screen, I've got the level and the offset. So let's go ahead and look at some of the pull-down menus. When you click in a pane, you get an option that relates to that pane. So I have alignment, I can add strings in here, update survey that we'll do later. If I click in the cross-section screen, I get a cross-section pull-down, so I can add a surface, add points, create volumes in here. Again, we'll be doing that later. And then if I click in the profile, I now have a profile drop-down, and I have edit, add IP, move IP, raise design, reports, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to try and cover some of these as we go through. So I've done it in this order because I want to go into the profile. So I'm just going to say add IP. And you can do this manually, or what we're going to do is key in some true values. So at chainage 0, and then click in the level box, we've got an elevation of 51.5. Say OK. In here you could add vertical curves in here for IPs. We're just going to say OK for each of these because we're a little short on time. And we're going to do chainage 10 is next with an elevation of 51.5. And again OK. Chainage 20 is next with an elevation of 49.2. 30 with an elevation of 47.5. 40 with an elevation of 46. 50 with an elevation of 45. So you can see they're dropping down a meter to 1 in 10 approximately. 60 with 43. 70 with an elevation of 42. And 85.5 with an elevation of 41. So you can see we've got a slightly bumpy road here based on these values, so let me show you how we can clean that out. So I can just press the escape key and go to profile and just merely say move IP. I click on it and I can just pull it down to something more reasonable, and I can do the same on the other one. Just again, profile, move IP, click on it and just lowers it down. So there's my profile created. Let me show you some of the other options that you can do in here. So I can now go to profile and I could choose, for example, I want to raise that design. So I want to raise the design, let's say by 100 mil. If I just click OK, you'll notice in the screen behind the whole road moves up 100 mil. So I can edit an element manually, or I can take the whole road out. Profile again, I can do a report on that, which just gives me all the information I've just keyed in, but notice it creates the new chainages and the elevation at those based on the cross sections. Okay, so that's basically what I want to run through with the profile. Let's go ahead now and let's work with templates for the cross sections. So we're going to go to design and templates, and we're going to make a new template which is going to be a 1 meter offset from center line at a -2, and the label is the left channel, and we're going to want the software to plot that. Now what's nice about this software, as I talk while I'm keying this in, is that you only have to key in one side of the template, the left side, and you can copy over to the right hand side. So it's a lot easier than the manual road entry. So the next element is a distance of 0.01 and a vertical distance of 0.1, and we're going to call that element the LTK for left top of curb, and then our next element is our back of path, which is 0.5 meter and is a slope of -3, and we're going to call that LBP and tick it. Okay, so it's a really narrow road, mainly because of the width we've got outside and the practical that we want to do with you. That's our template designed, so I'm now going to say copy that over to the right for me. So that's now copied over to the right. And I'm going to say I want to copy that to the library. And I'm going to overwrite the default and just say OK. So we're going to close out on this. And now what we need to do is we need to assign that template onto our existing horizontal alignment. So to do that, quite simply, we go to Design and Template Selection. Change we're going to run is 0, and we just pick the template from the pull down and we say OK. And now what I can do is if I say Design, Compute Design, there's my horizontal strings created, and here's my template sat inside the cross-section window. And what you'll see now is if I move back and forth up the chainage, my template appears in relation to the OGL. A few things we can do here. If I click on the red tab at the bottom of the screen and go to cross-section, I can choose to display crossfall, and I can also choose that any changes I make to the design, real time it will update. So I'm just going to say OK on that. And now you can see the OGL is showing the crossfall, but I can change the layer to my design, and I can see that information now in my template. So because we've got a curve here, what we want to do is this template currently runs the full 85 meters of road. What I want to do is I want to transition that. So I'm going to slightly widen the road as we go around the corner and super elevate the curve. To do that is real simple. We're going to go into Design and we're going to go Super Elevation Tables. And we're going to put some labels in. So I'm going to talk again as we do this. So we're going to say ST is the start of transition, which is going to be at 0. The control is 0, and the width of the road is 1 meter, and the crossfall is -2. The width is also -2. I'm sorry, the width is 1 meter with a crossfall of -2. Now I've kept those values in because now I need to explain what they mean. It's easier to put them in and then explain on the screen. You can transition two elements at one time. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to transition the left and the right channel. They're the first elements that come off the center line, these strings here and here. These are their current values in the template, but I want to start the transition with exactly as they are and then be in a super elevation by chainage 10. So I'm going to put in here full super, chainage 10, 0 control, and I'm going to widen this now to 1.5. The crossfall is going to be 4. The width on the other side is also going to be 1.5 with a negative -4. So I'm basically turning the road from this, like this, as I go round. I want to end that super elevation, so it's exactly the same values apart from the chainage. At chainage 50, 0, 1.5, 4 meter, 1.5, 4 meters, I'm sorry, -4%. And then the last one is where I want to end the transition, so that's also going to be chainage 60, 0 on the control, and it's a repeat of the top line. So we'll key these in and then hopefully you'll see exactly what's happening. It becomes really clear when you run the cross section and you can see the changes that it's made to the road. Okay, again I'm going to copy this to the library and I'm going to overwrite the default and I'm going to say OK. Excuse me. So the next thing I want to do is I want to assign this super. So I'm just going to go back to Design and I'm going to say Super Table Selection. I want to start at chainage 0. So 10 meters into the road I'm going to go for my super table. Here's my default. And now watch what happens on the screen here behind. And I'm merely going to say OK. So if I go on to chainage 0 and I scroll through, you can see at chainage 5 it's already starting to transition, so it's widening the road and changing the slope according to what I just specified. I'm now at full super at chainage 15. I hold that super round the curve to chainage 60 and then I'm starting to come back in. Okay, and you can see that in the graphics as well. If we just right click and say zoom window and pull in, you can see where the road starts to narrow back. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a side slope. So we're just going to go to design and choose the option add side slopes. And our chainage, we're going to apply these is 0. And we're just going to put a 1.5 slope for cut fill. So this is going to tie our template down to the existing ground level. So in other words, what it's going to do is it's going to join the red line to the green line, just like so. So again, if we bounce through, chainage 70, you can see how that side slope at that gradient fits in. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to apply a subgrade here, or a surface. So I'm just going to go to design and I'm going to choose subgrade template selection. Change is 0. The template, remember, is default. And we're going to put a depth in here of 200 mil. And I now choose that I want it to the existing template, which is urban value on both sides, or rural would be the tie slope. So I actually say I want it to end here. And if I say OK, there is now my boxing. And I can look at that by layer because I now have a boxing layer. And you can see my gradients applied on that layer. So the next thing that we can do is we could do some cross-section volumes. So if we just go to click in the cross-section, change the menu, cross-section volumes, and I'm going to say give me a volume for the complete design. So let's go for volumes by complete design, and I'm just going to include all the, I can change the elements in here, which is quite nice. So I could say okay, only give me the left top of curb to, for example, the right channel. So that changes obviously the volume report I'm going to get. I just say OK, and that now gives me at each chainage the amount of cut and fill. And you'll notice in here we've got the pavement volume based on the boxing report. So I just close out of that, and I can do that for multiple different options, you know, change the chainage, so on and so forth. And I can do a cross-section report, which merely just gives me all the information for each of the elements along the cross-section of each chainage. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this data back into the survey module. So to do that, I'm going to go into my profile view. So clicking my my horizontal view, alignment. I'm just going to check the data transfer table. So it's going to create all these strings and layers inside, and I'm going to create a DTM called final road based on my design surface here. And I'm just going to say OK, and quite simply alignment update survey. So we're done in the roads right now, so we're just going to go back. Here's our new DTM sat on top of the existing one, so let's change some of the settings. So we're going to click on the green triangle. I'm going to change the color of final road just by double clicking to be red, and we're going to turn the contours off because we don't need those. And we're going to say OK. So here's my DTM, and you'll see if I just go to layers, here's all my layers that it's created. So previously we just had spot level, so I'm just going to say OK on that. And there's a number of things I can do in here that I'd like to show you. The first thing is we're just going to do a volume. So we're going to say surface and choose the option for compute volume. So surface compute volume. What's the design surface? It's final road. What's the natural surface? Here's road OGL. And I want to create an isopachite, or what I would call an isopachite, a model of the difference. So I'm going to call it isopachite. And I'm going to put some colours in here. So I'm going to say the cut filler is going to be green, and the fill colour is going to be blue. So I'm going to change that to red, and I'm just going to say OK. So not only now do I get a volume report, but you'll notice that I get, if I just close out of that report, and again I'm not saving any of these, but I now get the areas of cut fill in my isopachite DTM, which by default will be turned on. So again, if I click down here, you can see isopachite is showing me the colour fill. But I'm going to turn that off, and I'm just going to turn off again the contours, which come on as default, and just go back to where we were. So back to my road. Now I'd like to show you how we can merge this DTM. So what we're going to do is go to surface, DTM tools, and I've got the option here for merge DTM. So I want to merge my final road with my road OGL to create merged, and select OK. And now I've got a further model. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to turn off these two guys and just say OK and leave merged DTM checked. And what I can do now is I can look at that. So I can just say Control A, right click, 3D view, and tell the software that I want to look at the merged DTM. I'm going to say OK. Scroll round, and if I just wheel in with the mouse, now you can see here the road that we've created. And not only that, how it fits into the DTM. So you can see we've got some cut at the start, and then we move down the road. But I can drive this, so I'm just going to come out and I'm going to say settings, view, alignment, and I want to drive this road, but at 0.5 meter above finished road level. A little bit bumpy, but you get the idea. So there we go. There's a complex road design in probably a 30-minute period. Let's export that data now, ready to use inside TopServe. So I'm just going to say File and Export onto my desktop, and I want a geo finished for a TSJ file. Just say Save. I'm going to send everything out except for the points and the lines, and just say OK. So there's my TSJ file. I'm also going to export via land XML file, so I'm just going to say File and Export, put it on the desktop, and I'm going to change the format to land XML, and I'm going to call it Finish Road. And again, I'm going to say Save. Key thing here now is, what do I want to do? So I want to take the alignments, the surface models, and just say OK. So this concludes the complex road tutorial. The next thing that we'll have a look at is how to use this data inside of TopServe.